The town of Black Hollow had always been a quiet, unassuming place, nestled deep in a valley where the sun barely kissed the land. A place where traditions ran deep, and the shadows stretched a little too long at dusk. But there was something else, something ancient, something hungry, that lurked beneath the town's surface. It was a darkness not born from the absence of light, but a living thing, waiting, watching, and whispering to those who dared to listen. For centuries, the townsfolk spoke in hushed voices about the hungering dark, a presence that swallowed the unwary whole. Some said it was a curse, others a forgotten sin come back to collect its due. But as the days grew shorter and the nights stretched endlessly, it became clear that the darkness was no longer content with whispers and shadows. It was coming. It began with Thomas Grayson, a middle-aged historian who had moved to Black Hollow to study its past. One night, he ventured into the abandoned coal mines on the outskirts of town. He never returned. The search party found his lantern still burning at the mine's entrance, his notebook torn apart as if something had shredded it. His last words scrawled in frantic ink: "The dark is alive. It sees me." Rumors spread like wildfire, igniting old fears long buried. The elders spoke of warnings passed down through generations: never go out after midnight, never speak to the voices in the dark, and most importantly, never, ever listen to the knocking beneath the earth. The town was in an uproar, but what could they do? The mine had long since been abandoned, deemed unsafe after a series of collapses decades ago. Those who had once worked its depths spoke of tunnels that led to nowhere, of unseen chasms that swallowed men whole. And now, it seemed, Thomas Grayson had been its latest victim. Following Thomas's disappearance, strange dreams plagued the townspeople. They dreamt of an abyss swallowing the town whole, of whispers slithering through their ears like serpents, promising both terror and salvation. Some awoke with scratches on their arms, others with blackened fingertips as if they had touched something burnt and ancient. Children spoke of a figure standing in their rooms at night, featureless yet unmistakably aware. The town doctor, Dr. Helena Foster, dismissed these as mass hysteria until she too began waking with bruises shaped like grasping fingers. Then came the voices. They weren't whispers anymore. They were loud, insistent, calling out from darkened alleys and empty buildings. The sheriff posted extra patrols, but the officers who walked the streets at night spoke of footsteps following them, of breathing where no one stood. Desperate for answers, a group of townsfolk led by the sheriff ventured into the mines. The deeper they went, the more unnatural the darkness became, thick, suffocating, moving as though it had weight. Their flashlights flickered, and a voice echoed from the tunnels calling their names. They turned back when they saw the first set of eyes staring from the void. Not human, not animal, just hunger. The sheriff barely made it out, the others dragging him as he screamed about shadows clawing at his legs. When they reached the surface, he refused to speak of what he had seen. He left town that very night. Days later, Thomas Grayson returned, or at least something wearing his form. He was found wandering the town square at dawn, naked, skin cold as ice. His eyes were black voids, his mouth twisted into a silent scream. He did not eat, he did not sleep, he only watched. The town locked him away in the old chapel, but the priest warned, "This is not Thomas anymore." That night, the priest's warnings came true when Thomas disappeared, leaving behind nothing but a pool of ink-like sludge. It was then that the town realized the hungering dark did not simply consume, it replaced. More people vanished. First, the drifter at the inn, then the baker's wife. Some were taken in their sleep, others while walking home after sunset. The air grew colder, the sky darker even at noon. The hungering dark was no longer satisfied with mere whispers. It wanted flesh, souls, and fear. The town meetings turned desperate. Old superstitions revived. Salt lines were drawn, candles burned day and night, but none of it stopped the inevitable. The darkness was no longer confined to the mines. It was spreading. Elijah Moore, the last remaining lightkeeper of Black Hollow, claimed he knew the truth. The darkness, he said, was older than the town itself. It was a being, a force that had always dwelled in the valley. The miners had only woken it. His final act was to keep the lighthouse burning, even though no sea bordered Black Hollow. The moment the light went out, he was gone, his body found days later, a hollowed husk with his eyes turned to coal. On the night of the blood moon, the town fell into chaos. The shadows moved without people to cast them, stretching unnaturally, reaching for the living. The screams of the taken echoed through the streets, but there was no one to save them. A group of survivors barricaded themselves in the church, the only place the darkness hesitated to enter. But they knew it was only a matter of time before the doors gave way. In desperation, the town's last remaining elders revealed a forbidden ritual, one that could seal the hungering dark once more. It required a sacrifice, a willing soul to walk into the abyss and bind the darkness with their very essence. Dr. Helena Foster volunteered. With the incantations complete, she stepped into the mines, her form swallowed whole by the void. The darkness roared, shrieked, and then silence. The sun rose for the first time in weeks. Though the darkness was sealed, the town was forever changed. Black Hollow was a ghost town now, its survivors haunted by what they had seen. Some left, unable to bear the memories. Others stayed, waiting, watching, fearing the day when the whispers would return. And beneath the earth, the faint sound of knocking began again. The hungering dark was never truly gone. It merely waited, as it always had, for the next foolish soul to venture too deep, to listen too closely, to believe they were safe. Because darkness is not merely the absence of light. It is a hunger that never dies,